All right, now I want to write some validations for presence. So we're going to put these in here. We're going to do like validates presence, like this. We saw an example of this in lesson 2 briefly, but now we're going to be doing this for real. So, but I actually don't want to do that yet. I can save it, and it should still be green. So I'm going to get to red. This is the red-green cycle. Oops, I want to put it here. So let's say test. Name should be present. Do, and, well, how can we assert this? So let's do assert. We're going to do this. We want something like this. Assert not. So we can actually do this. We can do bang. This will work. Or we can do this. Assert not. This is probably the idiomatically correct way to do it. And let's see. What we want to do is make this user's name blank or empty or somehow invalid. At user.name equals, so let's just use the empty string. Save that. This should be red. So now if we add this validation in, it should go green. Cool. It's probably a good idea to put some spaces in here because it's actually not just the empty string. We actually want someone trying to register for the site with a blank name to get some sort of error message. So if we save this, this should still be correct. So let's just go red and then go to green. Cool. So under the hood, what it's really doing is calling the blank method. This is added to Ruby by Rails. So a bunch of spaces is blank. But if you put something in there, now that's not blank. So let's take a look at some of the effects of creating this validation. So I just want to copy this and put it into our console here. So let's see if that user is valid. Notice I didn't copy the at part. That's because there's no reason to create an instance variable here. And generally speaking, if you don't need an instance variable, you should just use a normal variable. So this should be valid, right? Because the name and email are present. But if I do something like this, let's do just get rid of the example user name and just put in spaces. So user.valid should be false. Oh, so this is a good little tip here. So what happened here is that the validations have not actually been imposed because this console session got started before we added this validates line. So let's see if we can get this to fix itself. I think we can maybe reload, or so that didn't work. Let's do reload bang, I think. Let's see if this works. Ah, there we go. So that worked. So doing reload bang forced the console to reload the user model. By the way, if this sort of thing doesn't work, if you do reload bang and it's still not giving you the expected behavior, at that point you should probably just exit the console and restart it. It's a little heavy-handed, but it's the only way to be sure sometimes. So now that we've called user.valid question mark, Rails has actually done some error checking for us. In particular, there's now an errors, well, it's kind of an array. I'm not sure what it is. Actually, let's take a look at it. It's an active model errors. It basically acts like an array, though. And actually, that's not quite true. It's not really an array, but full messages is, though. So we can call full messages. This is a method on this errors object. And just pulls out the messages here. It actually converts. So this is a hash here. It converts that to an array, I think. Let's take a look. Yeah. So in this case, Rails is synthesizing error messages for us, and this will be useful in the next lesson when we're trying to give users some feedback if they try to sign up but it doesn't work. This will end up being an error message that gets displayed on the sign up page. And of course, if we try to save this user, it should say false, yeah. So that's because the user is not valid due to the blank name. All right, having added the validation for the presence of the name, it's easy to do the same thing for email. So let's just copy this. Email should be email. Same thing, assert not at user.valid. This should be false, so assert not should be true. Save this, it should be red. Let's go over here to guard. Good, it's red, and that's because we don't have the validation. So let's just copy this. It should be the same thing except email. I'd like to add a space here just to line everything up. And that should be green. Great.